Today we'll present to you the top 10 biggest and heaviest naval vessels of World War II. Without further ado, let's get started. The 10th biggest and heaviest naval vessels of World War II were the Nagato-class battleships. These were a pair of dreadnought battleships built for the Imperial Japanese Navy and first entered service in 1920 but still formidable during World War II. They were the first battleships in the world to mount 16-inch guns, setting a new standard in naval firepower. Each ship measured about 216 meters in length. Their full-load displacement was roughly 39,116 tons, heavy for their era and largely due to their massive turrets and strong armor protection. The armor belt was up to 305 mm thick, providing resilience against enemy battleship shells. Main armament included 8 410mm 16.1-inch guns in 4 twin turrets, capable of devastating long-range fire. At number 9, the Richelieu-class battleships. This class represented France's final generation of battleships, built in response to Italy's powerful Littorio class. Entered service in 1940, they stretched about 248 meters in length. At full load, they displaced around 44,698 tons, which reflected their heavy forward-mounted gun turrets and extensive armor protection. Their unusual arrangement placed all 8 15-inch 380mm guns in 2 quadruple turrets at the bow, concentrating firepower in a unique design. Armor was impressive, with a belt thickness of 327mm, offering substantial protection. The ships also carried secondary 152mm guns and robust anti-aircraft defenses to counter aircraft threats. Richelieu herself saw action both with the Free French Navy and later alongside the Allies after 1943. At number 8 is the South Dakota-class battleships. These were a group of 4 fast battleships built by the United States Navy, entered service in 1942. They were shorter but more heavily armored than their predecessors. Each ship was about 210 meters long, more compact than the Iowa class that followed. Their displacement reached around 45,233 tons at full load, which reflected the balance of speed, protection, and firepower packed into their hulls. These ships carried an armor belt of about 310mm with heavy deck protection to guard against plunging fire and bombs. Their main battery featured 9 16-inch 406mm guns and 3 turrets, delivering overwhelming firepower against enemy battleships. In addition, they carried a wide array of anti-aircraft weapons, especially as the war progressed. South Dakota, Massachusetts, Indiana, and Alabama all saw extensive combat across both the Atlantic and Pacific. Number 7, the Littorio-class battleships. Italy's Littorio-class battleships were the centerpiece of the Regia Marina during World War II, combining speed with heavy firepower. They entered service in 1940. Each ship measured about 238 meters in length, and their displacement was around 45,236 tons at full load, largely due to heavy guns and advanced armor systems. The main armament consisted of 9 15-inch 381mm guns and triple turrets, which give them striking power against Allied fleets. The belt armor reached 280mm in thickness, offering good resistance against enemy shells, and ships of this class such as Littorio Veneto and Roma fought in major Mediterranean battles. The 6th heaviest vessels of World War II is the King George V class battleships. This class formed the backbone of Britain's battleship fleet during World War II. Measuring about 227 meters in length, they were shorter than some rivals but well balanced. Their displacement after refitting and modification reached about 46,088 tons at full load, the weight owed to thick armor and advanced fire control systems. Their main battery consisted of 10 14-inch 356mm guns in a combination of quadruple and twin turrets. Armor was strong, with a belt of 373mm, making them some of the best protected battleships of the war. Secondary armament included 133mm dual-purpose guns, which doubled as anti-aircraft weapons. Famous ships like the HMS King George V and HMS Prince of Wales fought against the German Bismarck in 1941. Number 5 on the list for the top 10 biggest and heaviest naval vessels of World War II is the Essex-class aircraft carriers. These were the backbone of the U.S. Navy's carrier force and the most important warships of the Pacific War. Each measured around 266 meters in length. At full load, their displacement reached about 47,120 tons after refitting and modification. Their huge displacement was due to large hangar decks, aviation fuel storage, and armor. Airgroup typically included up to 90 to 100 aircraft, providing overwhelming strike capacity. Defensive armament included numerous 5-inch dual-purpose guns and dozens of anti-aircraft weapons. 17 Essex-class carriers entered service before the end of World War II, fighting at every major Pacific battle from 1943 onwards. They were so successful that many remained in service well into the Cold War, making them the most influential carriers of their era. Number 4. The Bismarck-class battleships. The Bismarck-class battleships were the largest warships ever built by Germany and symbols of Nazi naval power. These fast battleships entered service in 1940. Each ship stretched about 251 meters in length, towering over most European battleships. Their full-load displacement was roughly 52,600 tons, much of it dedicated to heavy armor and massive guns. The main armament included 8 15-inch 380mm guns. Protection was formidable, with belt armor up to 320mm thick and heavy deck armor against bombs and plunging shells. They also carried numerous secondary and anti-aircraft guns for defense. Bismarck became legendary after sinking HMS Hood in 1941 in the Battle of the Denmark Strait. Her sister ship Tirpitz tied down Allied naval resources in Norway until she was finally sunk in 1944. At number 3, the Iowa-class battleships. These were the United States' ultimate fast battleships combining speed, power, and protection. The Iowa-class battleships was a class of 6 fast battleships that entered service in 1943. Each measured about 27 meters in length, making them among the longest battleships ever built. Their displacement reached about 61,000 tons at full load, reflecting their massive size and equipment. The main battery featured 9 16-inch 406mm guns capable of hurling shells over 20 miles. Protection included a 307mm belt, multiple armored decks, and advanced damage control systems. These ships also carried dozens of 5-inch dual-purpose guns and hundreds of anti-aircraft weapons. The class included Iowa, New Jersey, Missouri, and Wisconsin, all of which saw action in World War II. Their enduring design allowed them to remain in service for decades, even firing in conflicts as late as the 1991 Gulf War. At number 2, the IJN Shinano. She was originally laid down as the 3rd Yamato-class battleship, but was converted into an aircraft carrier during construction. She is one of the largest carriers of World War II, though her service was tragically short-lived. She measured about 266 meters in length, the same length as the Essex carriers but far heavier. Her full-load displacement was around 65,800 tons, owed to her battleship origins and heavy armor protection. Shinano can carry to about 47 aircraft. Armor was unusually heavy for a carrier, with a belt up to 200mm and an armored flight deck. She also carried a strong secondary armament of 127mm guns and dozens of anti-aircraft weapons. However, her hurried completion meant she sailed without proper watertight sealing and training. Just 10 days after commissioning, she was torpedoed and sunk by the U.S. submarine Archerfish in November 1944. The heaviest, biggest, and largest naval vessels of World War II is none other than the Yamato-class battleships. Built by Japan, they symbolize the peak of battleship design during World War II. Each ship measured about 263 meters in length, with a beam of 38.9 meters, giving them immense bulk. At full load, Yamato's displacement reached 72,809 tons, making her the heaviest warship of her time, and even today, surpassing all other battleships, though not accounting for aircraft carriers like the Gerald R. Ford. Much of this weight came from their monstrous main guns, 9 18.1-inch 460mm weapons, the largest ever mounted on a warship. Armor protection was unmatched, with a belt up to 410mm thick and multiple armored decks. They also carried secondary 155mm guns and massive arrays of anti-aircraft defenses. Yamato and Musashi were built to dominate any naval battle, but saw limited success due to air power's rise. They were sunk by waves of US aircraft carriers. Well, that's it guys from the Buzz for today. Thank you guys for viewing in. We'll see you guys again in our next video. Until then, bye-bye.